Hello and welcome to At the Table with Tom and Eric, a show about the people who play games. I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Eric Summerer. Our guest at the table today is the co-designer of Cora Quest and the co-host of the tangentially board game podcast, Sporadically Bored with Mike and Dan. Please welcome Mr. Dan Hughes. Hello, Dan.
Hello. Thank you for having me on. Only took to episode 9, which I'm slightly bitter about, but other than that, thank you.
Well, you were discussing all the folks who joined us before you, and you were only slightly bitter about some of them.
Yeah. I'm very bitter about others.
I got to say, though, the reason it took so long, Dan, was I was listening to one of your episodes on board gaming throughout the first 8, and it finally got to board gaming, and I was like, oh, Dan can come on the show now. But before that, I wasn't quite sure.
It's only a small part of the wonder of that is me, is board gaming. It's only a small gem of my wonderful personality.
More importantly, Dan has been on Board Game Breakfast on the Dice Tower video show, and we have had people come and go. Dan is, I think, currently holding the record for having been on the longest and still currently on.
Excellent.
Once in a while.
I used to do the Dice Tower podcast as well, which you probably won't remember, but Eric will. I used to contribute a very small segment to the Dice Tower podcast as well. So I've been here forever. I've been here longer than you, Tom.
Well, that's before they call it the Dice Tower. It's called the Hughes Tower.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, we should probably delve right into it and keep you as close to on track as possible, Dan. And the first thing I want to get to, before we get into your background and your origins into the board gaming hobby, I want to know how you feel about selling out Cora Quest at Gen Con.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Sold-out game.
Here in the document, it says, how does it feel to sell out at Gen Con? I thought, well, Dan sold out years ago.
Yeah. In fact, it feels very good. I mean, the trick to selling out at Gen Con is only bring 2 copies. That's my tip for all the board game publishers. No, we air freighted. Well, weren't we? Bright Eye Games air freighted 150 copies over, and they all sold out. Well, they should have all sold out in day 1, and then they found some copies they forgot to add. So we sold out on day 2. So, which is pretty exciting, really.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. I mean, I don't know what answer you're expecting, but good is the answer you're getting.
He's expecting you to go,
That's great. Well, I thought we'd actually touch on the, only bringing 150 copies. It is easier to sell out than if you, say, brought 600 copies and had 200 left over.
That is true, but it would also be a lot more expensive because they're all air freighted over from the from China, so that's why it was a limited thing. So the retail copies of Cora Quest are all on boats now, going to various hubs. So that's really exciting. Actually, it's very, very exciting. To be honest.
Are you following the boats online?
No, because the distributors have bought. It's complicated, but as far as either Mark isn't telling me because he knows I'm a real pain about stressing about ports and queues and stuff like that, or he's telling the truth. And people like Asmodee have bought the copies already and they're shipping them in their own containers rather than we're shipping them to them, if that makes any sense. So no one's given me any names of boats, which is very upsetting.
I don't do that, but I've heard about people who follow the boats because you can track every freight boat in the world. It's a fascinating thing.
I certainly did it with the Kickstarter. Yeah. I could have told you where it was. I even paid for the upgraded service.
What does that do?
Well, it meant that you could tell where it was exactly that moment instead of once every 12 hours. It was important, Tom. I needed to know how far past the Philippines it was.
Well, I'll just use your account if I need to know some information.
Yeah. Well, I've unsubscribed now. I'm not paying them prices, but by the time, it was very important to me.
So, Dan, let's go back a little bit to when you were just a small Hughes and talk about how you got into this hobby of ours. First off, have you always lived in Huddersfield? Is that like the childhood home? Has that always been your place of business?
Yes. I'm Huddersfield born and bred. I actually come from a small town just off Huddersfield called Holmfirth, which won't mean anything to you, but people in the UK will know it as the place where they filmed Last of the Summer Wine, which is the world's longest running sitcom. And it's beautiful, scenic countryside. And I still live in beautiful, scenic countryside. Just a slightly cheaper bit of it. So yeah, but Huddersfield born and bred. and proud. Yes.
Excellent. So looking back, like, what is the earliest thing you can remember playing games? Was it a family thing of all the time, or was it something you got into later on?
I think the earliest clear memory I've got of playing games is combining the Escape from Atlantis, or is it Survive rather, it's called now. So combining that game with a game called Lost Valley of the Dinosaurs, where you had to go along a track and escape some dinosaurs. So I went from combining two kind of 1 hour games to this magnificent 2 hour beast where you escape from Atlantis and then all your pawns had to run through the Valley of the Dinosaurs. I'm going to be in discussion with Stronghold Games to see if they want to license my version.
Wow, you hate the heroes of your story. They like finally land. I'm sure they're like, oh, we made it, Dinosaur Valley.
That's exciting. And then the lava was coming down, the pterodactyl. You had a little model pterodactyl that you came and picked up people and dropped them into the volcano. It's fantastic. It was peril all the way.
Pawn torture, as you could say. So was that common? Would you often take more than one game and sort of mash them together, use pieces from one and the board from another?
No, I don't think that. But I do remember every time friends came out, or my brother and sister's friends came out, I always used to make up games for us all to play. So I was thinking this the other day. I thought I've always actually designed little games. I just not realised I did it. You know, not particularly board games, but more kind of childhood games or folk games or whatever. You know, I can't remember any rules. They're probably all revolved around me winning. But yeah, they used to come to me and little brother and sister and just say, "Can we make up a game?" and then make up some version of tag or hide and seek or something. Yeah.
So was it always a dream to eventually make something that you could sell as a board game, or was it you almost fell into it?
No, I fall into everything I do, Eric. There's no plan in my life.
I think you should at least talk about, not say that in front of your family anyway, but
for those who haven't heard the Cora Quest origin story, can you quickly talk about how this came to be?
Yeah, very, very briefly. My daughter Cora, 8-year-old daughter Cora, it was just the start of lockdown. The schools were sending homeschooling stuff back, but it wasn't particularly interesting because it wasn't their fault. They were just caught on the back foot. And in order to try and relieve some of the boredom of lockdown, we just decided to make a board game, basically. So it was just a homeschooling project with bits of math and probability and a bit of computer design and all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of took a life on its own, really. And a friend of mine, Gary, who's a fantastic artist, sent us a drawing as a joke, saying with a box cover, and it kind of spun off in my mind thinking, oh, and then so Gary came on board and we made it a print and play thing. And then people started giving me feedback from the print and play thing. So it's almost like play testing, really. And then we thought, oh, well, actually, if we make all these changes, maybe it could be a real game. And then we just decided to have a go at Kickstarter because it might be fun. And then it did really well on Kickstarter, to be honest. And we got national TV. It just fell into everything, Eric. We just fall in. It just happened, really. It was a one kind of idle whim to the next, and then suddenly you're fulfilling 6,000 copies of a board game you designed or co-designed.
It almost sounds like a joke that neither of you wanted to pull out of.
Well, that's it.
It was a joke.
That's it. Yeah. But it was a very exciting process.
Now, did Cora push you towards this, or were you the one who let her? Like, did she say, "Let's"? Who was the first one who said, "Let's make it a real game"?
Me, I think. Well, definitely me. I asked her if she wanted to do it, and she would. She doesn't really have the concept of publishing and all that kind of stuff. She was incredibly excited by the fact we were allowed to design a game. If that makes any sense. This is a product that was coming, and we were just with bits and paper and models we took from Mythic Battles Pantheon and all sorts of stuff. That she was so excited that something we created could be playable and we could play it and, to develop it and things. I don't think she'd ever really thought of these things as created before. And then, I said, do you fancy making it properly? And, she was well up for it. Yeah.
One of my favorite things that I've seen you post on social media from time to time is your business meetings, which usually seem to involve you going out for ice cream. Is there anything else on the agenda, or is it just ice cream?
Ice cream mainly. Sometimes fart jokes. We do quite a lot of those as well. But ice cream.
It sounds suspiciously like my business meetings.
That's it. I've heard the stories. And the business meetings will be more about me, to be honest. After we kind of developed the game and got the final version, the business meetings will be more about me teaching Cora about the process. So following the boats, you see, it's an educational thing, Tom. It wasn't just my obsession. Following the boats to see where they went through the world, talking about the manufacturing process and all that kind of stuff, kind of things that a kid doesn't normally get any kind of insight into. I thought it was a fantastic experience, not necessarily educational, just exciting. Just to share that excitement. So that's what the business meetings have been about primarily, is kind of informing of what's going on with the kind of business end of stuff in a fun way. I mean, the key thing for me through this entire thing has been to make it absolutely exciting and fun for Cora. Anything that isn't fun, I try to remove away from her. She doesn't need to know about, should we go with this manufacturer or that because of the, but she is interested in kind of how they make dice, and we watch videos on manufacturing, all that kind of stuff really. So all the fun, exciting bits, and then I try to shield her from the boring 100 play tests and all that kind of tedium.
Well,
so she has a completely skewed version of what publishing a board game is.
So easy.
This is great. It's simple.
Yeah. All you do is invent a board game for 3 days, and then occasionally your dad takes you out for ice cream, and then you've got a board game at the end of it. Yeah, that's it.
Well, let me ask you that though. I mean, so you were out there spending several $100,000 tracking boats, but while you were doing that, so you're excited about this. I know for kids, the whole "is it here yet" is a big deal. Did it seem interminably long to her for the game to show up?
Yeah, I think so. I think the concept of time is very difficult for kids to kind of get a hold of, really. Fortunately, that was all going on around Christmas, so she was quite distracted by Christmas and all that kind of excitement. And it arrived basically the 1st of January is when it came through to us anyway. So yeah, no, it's been some, as I say, I've been shielding her a little bit. My absolute inability to be patient. I've tried to take that out on my wife, rather than, she's the one who gets constantly told, oh, it's going through the Panama Canal and all that kind of
you must be a joy to be around.
Yeah. She loved it. Getting woken up at 2 a.m. with me poking her, saying, look where it is now. She loved it.
So I want to touch on your day job, Dan. Yes. You work in the healthcare industry in Britain. You are, if I'm not mistaken, a visiting nurse. You travel from client to client?
Yeah, sort of. I'm what they call a community mental health nurse. So I only work with people with mental health problems. My role is basically, if you are suicidal or you're experiencing a psychotic episode, or you've got dementia and you're being very violent towards your family, or any kind of crisis situation, I will come to your house or the police station or the ER department, depending on where you are. I'll make an assessment of whether you're safe to be at home or if you need to be in hospital. And then if you are safe to be at home but need intensive support, then me and my team will go around and visit you every day, continue to do that risk assessment, give you some acute emergency mental health support, and hopefully avoid you going into hospital and hopefully get you better. So that's what I do.
Have you found
it's a bit different to board game design, though?
Well, I was going to ask if any of those skills have transferred. Have you found that anything in your day job has been able to make you a better board gamer or a better project manager, or vice versa? Have you been able to work your hobby into your day job?
Working my hobby into my day, and I do know some people who work in mental health that do use board games within their practice, but the people I see are too acutely unwell, really. I don't want to be sitting down with somebody who's suicidal and saying, right, come on, we're playing Carcassonne.
Yes.
Although in some ways that might be good, but not in my field.
Right.
But I think there's I'm very good at risk management because that's my job, is risk management. And so I'm very good at feeling very kind of looking for problems before they exist. And I think that's really helped with the Kickstarter process. And I think I think a lot in advance. I think I'm very good at reading people, and that helps with board gaming. I mean, I've got kind of over 20 years of doing this job. I've got a very good gut feeling about people's intentions and things and the way they're feeling. So yeah, it's difficult. Quite. All my skills are quite soft skills, but they're quite. I don't do it so I can get better at board gaming, but I think they're transferable.
Don't play poker with Dan, is all I'm hearing. All right, Dan.
So let's move on. Yeah, go for it, Tom.
Dan, it's time for the big question of the week with a side question I'm actually more interested in. But the big question is, how do you cultivate a community around your game while maintaining creative control of the product? This is important to me to learn, Dan, because I neither build a community around my game nor maintain creative control of the product. So I don't. You need to explain this to me.
It's a difficult one, really, and all the things. I mean, all the things that I've done to create the community around Core Quest don't scale massively well. So for what I do now, probably wouldn't work for Fantasy Flight or whatever, because all I have done to grow a community is be myself, which is be completely honest, be open, be respectful of people. So whether that's respectful, just not calling them idiots, which is quite difficult sometimes, or whether it's respectful of their time, really. So not spamming everything. If I am promoting something, trying to add something of value to that person rather than just take. Every post I do, I want to make it humorous, enjoyable to read, or something in it that will be enjoyable for the other person. And then most of my community is on Facebook, so it's about kind of quite tight but also quite fair moderation, interacting with people, replying to people when they think. I don't like the kind of the trend of calling people fans. I don't like the word fans. It suggests an unequal relationship, really. I don't see myself as being the leader of a community. I feel I'm a part of a community. Saying that, the other part of the question is, how do you keep control of your project? And to be honest, I think Core Quest has probably got more community involvement than I think nearly any board game I've ever come across. Certainly because we got all the art from children or liars, Eric.
So as a side note,
misunderstanding.
Dan, on that note, and we'll talk about Eric's lying later, but who came up with that absolutely brilliant idea?
That was Gary. So Gary, the artist, and we'll touch on this in the next part of this question, is an absolutely integral part. I mean, it says Dan and Cora on the box, but it's really Dan, Cora, and Gary. Gary has shaped this project as much as I have, or as much as Cora has. And one of his day jobs was getting people more involved in art. And actually, one of his day jobs used to be when people are in meetings and things and brainstorming, he used to draw their brainstorming. So kind of he used to visualize their kind of mission statement or whatever in drawings and cartoons and stuff. So he's incredibly talented, is Gary. So yeah, his idea was to involve the community. First of all, it was to have Cora's art in the game. So about 50% of the art in Core Quest is Cora's, but then open it up. When we decided to go to Kickstarter instead of just a print and play, his idea was to open it up to anybody who wants to send us stuff. And I think there's something like 200 kids' games in art in the game now. Some of it might just be a little squiggle. Some of it might be a potion bottle in a corner of a card or something like that. But what he does is he traces over it on a drawing program and then colours it in, but just leave as much of it with the kind of soul and the character of the kids' drawing as possible. It's fantastic. It really is good. And people really, really responded well to it. I mean, we've just had for this expansion we're doing, we've just had a open submission thing for drawing an archer lady and a goblin king, and we've had hundreds of people send us in their pictures, and it's so joyful just looking at them. To be honest, all these fantastic kids' pictures, it's lovely.
Yeah, because it's also super unique.
Yeah. I don't think anyone else has done it.
Man, I tell you, it made everybody happy when Jimmy saw his picture being animated. He was happy. I was happy. People who watched it were happy because it's fascinating to see you take a children's picture, redraw it, and it's still a children's picture.
Yeah.
You know, it's still their thing, but somehow make it better. I was so impressed by that.
Well, you talk about, making Frankenstein games growing up, but this sort of has that feeling of let's all tell a story with these kids' drawings. And even though it was professionally produced and put together, but all of that was sort of sourced with kids' ideas and drawings and aesthetics. So it feels like let's all put on a show in a board game sense, as opposed to something more polished.
And one of the key things that we were really excited about was encouraging people to make their own stuff as well. So we've got like an app where you can do your own picture and print it out. But kids are often reluctant to do drawings and things because they think they can't be as good as a proper drawing or something like that. So kids might be reluctant to do their own heroes and their own enemies and things because it won't be as good as if it was a cartoon art or Splendor or whatever, a Marvel comic or something like that. But it's clear to kids that all the art in this is done by a child. There's no. It looks great. Don't get me wrong. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, but it's clear that it's done by a kid, and that encourages children to think I can do this too, which is something that we both felt really passionate about. We wanted to share the joy that Cora and I had in creating this, and let other people have joy creating things as well. And I think we did. I mean, not everyone does. Some people just want to play the game, and that's fine. You can do that, but there are children who keep sending us their villains and stuff, and we put it on the website. I've just later on today I need to format a new adventure that someone's written for us and stuff. I'm going to put that on the website. So it's just encouraging that creativity really, and just sharing it with people. Yeah. And also letting you cheat and put a bit of your art in it, Eric.
I sent all of the things from the Summerer household and said that some of them were mine and others were my son's, and you just picked the ones that were mine. I can't choose that.
Wait. Okay, I didn't know this whole thing here. So you're saying not only did Eric lie, but he basically usurped his own children.
Yeah, he said, don't use theirs, Tom. He said, don't use theirs, they're rubbish. You only use this one, he said. This one's the best one.
It was a secret marking I put on all of my drawings so that...
A little dollar bill attached to them all.
Indeed.
All right, Dan. Let's turn into 20 questions now. I mean 20 or 60 minutes here. We want to be hard-hitting journalistic thing here. But I am curious about this. That this question Mish asks. He says, "Is administration of the rights and creative control of Cora Quest shared by you and Cora? Are there any legal complications in trying to give your daughter recognition and shared ownership of the game and its intellectual property? Or, as an addition from myself, will we see this someday in the future on when they were young and Dan is the villain?"
Yeah, I'm a bit like Gary Coleman's parents. That's going to be me extorting my. I mean, there's not a lot of money in board game. However, yes, this was an issue actually because I couldn't pay Cora her share to her. It had to go through me. So unfortunately, I had to pay taxes on her share of the Cora Quest money because it's illegal in the UK for any child to be paid who's under the age of 13 unless they've got a special license, and they only give that license out to actors. So that kind of
wait, they can't get paid even like you mean officially paid? Like they can't go do they can't come cut my grass and I pay them?
Well, legally, no, they can't do that. But kids do. I mean, that's what I tell my kids when they want money for their pocket money as well.
It's illegal.
I'd love to give you some money for emptying the dishwasher, but unfortunately, it's illegal, and I'll be sent to prison.
All right.
But I mean, I did pay her, but it had to be taxed, which is frustrating. Because otherwise it wouldn't be taxed because she doesn't earn.
Sure, that makes sense.
Right, she can't have her own income. It has to be from you, and then it goes her.
Yeah,
after
exactly. Yeah. But as far as copyright goes, This because you gave me a little bit of warning on this question, and it is genuinely something I didn't really consider. The copyright is actually owned, and again, this goes back to your previous question, by myself and Gary, because I felt that Gary is such an integral part of this project, and one of the reasons we went to Kickstarter instead of trying to go through a publisher was because I didn't want the even slight possibility that Gary wouldn't be attached to it, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So Gary and I share the copyright, but I've just looked it up now, and children can be added to the copyright as well. So I think we will change that. So we'll add Cora in as well. So legally, she can own a copyright. Although I don't think she's allowed to do anything with it until she's 18. But to be honest, it's not big enough project to start getting lawyers involved and things like that. As you say, we'll find out in the courts when she drags me through them when she's 21 and demanding her share of the CoraQuest millions.
The millions, yes.
Yeah.
Or she demands her version of the product, and you get the Cora version of CoraQuest, and then you have to rename it something else.
That's the other interesting thing, that because for a short while, I was being courted. I don't know if you know this, but I've been courted by Hollywood. Two LA writers who used to write for the Disney Channel got in contact with me and asked me to sell me the rights to CoraQuest. I didn't end up going with it because they wanted too many rights, and I felt very uncomfortable that I would be down a rabbit hole of legalese. That would mean
HBO presents CoraQuest.
Well, yeah,
the gritty reboot.
But there was a short period of time where that was on the cards, and I looked into it because Gary and I share the copyright. So, but if you share the copyright, you don't need the other copyright holder's permission to do anything with it, which is fascinating. So if you've got copyright and Gary's got copyright, Gary could go and sell it to I don't know, the Disney Channel, and I could, I don't know, I wouldn't have any say in it. I'd get some money, but I wouldn't have any say in it. Anyway, that's beside the point. Sorry. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not your lawyer. I'm more than happy to give legal advice, though. Just email me, and I'll give you some legal advice. That's what I say.
That's the whole thing is a little bit fascinating to me, and of course we know that, in case you're listening to this and not catching the sarcasm, very few board games make thousands, let alone millions. So there's a lot going on in there. But before we jump off this, how does this, and I don't want to get too much into this, but like, is this like formed a bond between you two, like that you think will last so long? Because we all have different relationships with our different kids. I have 7 kids. Every kid is different. But this is something I've not done. Publish something with a child is an interesting relationship.
I was going to say, yeah, before we hated each other. Now we're quite fond of it now.
Turn everything around.
We just passed each other in the house. We never spoke. No, I don't actually think it has. I think it's part of a larger parenting experience and shared experience. I think it's much bigger in my life at the moment than it is in Cora's. She's very proud of it, but I'm kind of, because I'm dealing with all the back end and the business stuff, it's kind of consuming my thoughts. So I think we would have the same relationship regardless. I mean, we've made Lego animated movies together, and just because it hasn't been published doesn't mean to say that hasn't been as a bonding experience, the same length and all that kind of stuff. So it's not probably the answer that most people would want, But I think it's just part of the absolute, pleasure of being a parent with a wonderful child. Really, I think it's just part of the milieu.
All right, let's move on to some questions from our lovely audience. We have some that have
you got a new audience?
Wait, they're around. So folks who have joined us in the chat watching live, we appreciate you joining in. You can send in those questions if you'd like to know something of Dan. But we have a few that came in via our Board Game Geek forums as well. From Coralie, when you were Cora's age, what was your dream
job? Many years ago.
Yes. I'm exactly the same age as you, Tom Vassell. Well, not exactly, not the same birthday. I used to want to own a pet shop. That was my dream. I used to one of my not passing fancies, but I used to breed parakeets and budgerigars and things like that when I was a child. I used to have an aviary in the back garden, and I used to breed cockatiels and parakeets and all sorts of stuff, and budgies. So I used to want to own a pet shop. I wouldn't want to do that now. In fact, I'm happy without any pets in the house now. So they're a complete 180. You have to look after them. Before, they just got magically looked after somehow. But now that I'm no longer living with my parents, somehow that magical thing has stopped, and it's me walking the dog. I don't know what's going on there.
Strange how that works out.
Yeah.
So Jerry says, what's the worst thing about managing a Kickstarter? He's looking for some hot gossip.
Well, it's I think for me the worst thing was waiting and being not reliant on other people, but dependent on other people. You know, we send all the files off, and then there's a 3-week gap, and that means the end result is going to be further away, and you know you send it to the docs, and then there's an inexplicable week thing, and then they get on the ship, and then you're watching the ship go along, and you've got no power over it. And I mean, professionally, I'm used to being kind of not in charge, but just being in control. I'm not a control freak. I promise I'm not a control freak.
That sounds like it.
But sounds like
welcome to your couch.
But I'm kind of, I'm a master of my own destiny, really. And when you, as part of a larger team, which are all working on the same thing simultaneously, if someone doesn't finish it, then that holds you up, and there's nothing you can do. I think it's that powerlessness that I found quite difficult. Yeah.
And so the delay, it's like steering a ship. You make a correction, and then you wait to see if it worked or not. Exactly.
So it was a frustration. I'm not a very patient man, and it was the frustration of having to wait for things. You know, people are saying, "Oh, I can't wait till it gets here," and I'm saying, "Not as much as I can't wait till it gets here." I tell you, like the retail version, like the retail version, is still is reasonably delayed because we had to. It's being translated into different languages, so that took a while to do. But every week, I'm emailing Mark and saying, "Have you heard anything back from the translators?" And Mark's kind of got me on block now, basically, unfortunately, but still.
So Petya wants to get a little deep here.
Okay.
What function, Dan, do your podcasts serve to you? You've produced and started a few, one or two. Do you need them as a communication tool or for self-expression, maybe? As an introverted person, how do you overcome the fear of doing something publicly?
Yeah. Well, I have started a lot of podcasts. I've been podcasting for 15 years now. Most of the bulk of that has been a while ago, where I did some movie podcasts. I used to do a comic podcast. I used to do TV. Used to do Lee and Dan's TV pilot project, where we watched a pilot show of loads of different TV shows and whether we'd carry on watching them and stuff like that. And usually, and then I'm sporadically bored now with Mike Delisio, the hack. And I started This Game Is Broken, and I started loads of other podcasts as well recently, and then dropped them. It's about the creation. It's about the joy of creation for me. I've always found joy in creating things. It's not necessarily about the needing to be heard. The reason I carry on with Sporadically Bored is because I for some reason enjoy talking to Mike Delisio, and it's a good opportunity to do that and catch up. And I enjoy showing off a little bit as well. I'll admit it, and it's nice to build that community around you. But I'm a big fan of punk rock kind of ethos in the democratization of media. You know, anyone can start their own radio show. Anyone can start their own TV channel. I mean, even Tom Vassell started his own YouTube channel, and he's a man with no charisma. So you know, anyone can do it. So
I'm starting to see a line of similarity in the guests Eric's bringing on. But okay, continue.
I'll pay you later, Dan.
Yeah. So it's just a joy of creation, really. I think that's why I do it. I've got no desire to be a professional podcaster or YouTuber or anything like that. It's just the joy in creating something, which is why I sometimes start stuff and then don't bother carrying them on, because I've created it, and it's like, well, that's the excitement gone, really. But yeah, joy of creation. And as for the introvert thing, I'm introverted when I'm in front of people. I don't really believe in introvert, extrovert, really. I think it's all on the spectrum, and it depends on how you're feeling at the time. Getting up in front of a room full of people would be quite intimidating for me, and I have been anxious, as Tom was just mentioned, trying to break my confidence just before we started.
Off air.
Trying to sabotage my appearance by telling me how anxious I usually get, and then. But in a large kind of group of people, I'd probably feel very self-conscious and stuff. But just speaking to, disembodied heads on the internet, I don't have any problem with that at all. I don't really believe you exist, to be honest. I think you're just puppets for my own amusement.
Hello, puppets. So before we get to questions from the chat, one more from Mish, who is a fan of Sporadically Bored, where you do a segment called A Few Acres of Rubbish, which is when you recommend something non-board gaming related. And Mish wanted us to do that as well. So for you, Dan, and for you and me, Tom, what's one non-gaming recommendation that's on your radar right now?
I can go first because my standard one is the greatest author that's ever lived, and the funniest author that's ever lived. It's a man called P.G. Wodehouse, who used to write novels in the kind of from about 1900, I'm guessing, till kind of 1950, 1960, all set in upper class British society, and who has the most masterful grasp of the English language, and it's basically kind of Downton Abbey, but a farce, ultimately. But the language he uses is so amazingly sharp and witty and funny, and it's just amazing, absolutely amazing. P.G. Wodehouse is the finest. Jeeves and Wooster is his most famous creation, and that was a TV show with Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry, which a lot of people might know it from. But he's just an amazing author. Anything by P.G. Wodehouse.
Cool. Tom, how about you?
My word, I don't know what to say now. I thought I was going to say, I like the first episode of She-Hulk. But now Dan's put me to shame here. I need to come up with something more involved. But I can't think of anything, so I'll pass it to you, Eric.
Sure. So I enjoyed the first season of a show called Paper Girls. It's based on a Brian K. Vaughan comic book series. Do you have the comic there, Dan? You might. There it is, and that they use the same logo and everything. It's about a quartet of girls in 1988 who deliver papers. They are paper girls, and something strange happens, and they get transported to 2019 and are suddenly having to deal with technology and their future selves and the repercussions of all of that. And it's delightfully produced. I love all the lead actresses. It is really a solid show. And looking forward to more. It's on streaming. I think it's Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's
it's right. One of them anyway, isn't it? I haven't seen it yet, but Brian K. Vaughan is an amazing comic book writer. Everything he's done I've found incredible.
All right, well then I'll stick with comic books. I just recently read a comic book called Irredeemable. This is from Mark Waid, and it's about a superhero called the Plutonian, who's essentially Superman. But at the very beginning of the series, he's gone just bad. He just destroys the whole city, kills the rest of the Justice League or whatever they are in this, or kills many of them, and then everyone else is trying to figure out how to stop the unstoppable. It's a very, very good series. It's now they just came out with that TV show, Invincible, I think, or what's it called?
Yeah, Invincible.
The animated one, Invincible, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little like that, maybe, except there's not, it's not so much that you see heroes, it's people just trying to stop this guy. But I thought it started well and ended well and had a lot of really good moments in it. So, it's a graphic novel. I read it for free on Hoopla. I love Hoopla. Eric, have you used Hoopla before?
I don't think so.
Hoopla is an app for your phone that will, or iPad, that hooks up with your local library.
Oh, yes.
You can borrow books from it. It's fantastic.
There are also audiobooks on there, correct? I think there are.
Yeah, I don't listen to that sort of thing.
Audiobooks. I'd like to raise an objection here. Tom's had two now. Tom's had two. That's not fair.
What did I say before?
He's recommending Hoopla, and he's sort of recommended She-Hulk. That's 3.
No, She-Hulk doesn't count. All right.
This is an abuse of power, is what it is.
Let's go to the first question from our audience here, which is for Dan. It says, what is one thing that us Americans are most wrong about, according to you wonderful British people, I believe is what he said.
I don't think...
Please tell me it's clapping in theaters, because I'm going to do it till I die, Dan.
That is very true. Clapping in theaters is abhorrent.
You're not supposed to clap in the theater? Oh, in the movie theater? Or
so we all went to England.
They can't hear you, Eric. They can't hear you. You know, it's on the screen.
We watched a movie and we all clapped at the end, and all our English friends looked at us like, "What is wrong with you?" We're like, "It was a good movie."
When I was in New York, I went to see the David Letterman show live, which was pretty cool, and they were waiting for it to. We were waiting for it to start, and every time one of the songs, they were playing some music. Every time one of the songs finished, everyone went, "Woo! Yeah, woo! It's pre-recorded music. What are they doing? Clapping pre-recorded music." Then we went to see Blade 3, was it? I don't know, the one with Luke Goss in it, the Bros brother, and people standing up, whooping. What's going on? Sit down. Enjoy it in repressed silence. Do not show your enjoyment of things. You know, sit there in repressed rage. Really.
Isn't the crowd experience important? It's all about enthusiasm within the group of people you're watching it with.
The only reason to go to the cinema is to get that crowd experience, but to inwardly seethe, to get your daily recommendation of seething. That's how I get my.
Are you saying that, to pick just a random example, the climactic scene of the Avengers?
Yes.
That you were totally silent throughout, and you just said, "Huh, that is a satisfying finale."
One person at the back of the cinema said, "Core blimey," and we all turned around and gave them a big scowl. That's what happened at the.
All right, let's move on. Dan, this actually is tied into this. Josh says, since you're into graphic novels, are there new ones you want to recommend to Tom? Hit me up, Dan. Give me something good.
New ones. I'm going to have to turn around.
Or anything. I only read Marvel, so I have a plethora. And if it's non-Marvel, I'm in.
I mean, going back to Brian K. Vaughan, I really like the Why the Last Man stuff, which is recently a TV series, and Saga is absolutely amazing. And going back to it.
Okay, so I thought Why was a little boring. Saga it's a tough read, Dan.
Yeah, it's grim. It's grim, but there's some moments of beauty in it, though. I won't go into it because it's not appropriate for this podcast, but there's some moments of beauty in it. And similarly, I hate horror. I really do dislike horror. But going back to Invincible, I've recently read all of the Walking Dead comics, and while I'd never watched a Walking Dead TV show, the comics have been absolutely amazing. I think there's something about the pacing of a comic book and the fact there's no jump scares. I hate jump scares. That allows me to read more kind of grim stuff in a comic than I would do otherwise. But my favourite comic of all time is the Justice League International, the old Blue Beetle and Booster Gold and J.M. DeMatteis and Keith Griffin stuff from the 80s. That's my favourite stuff.
Whew. All right, one quick question, Dan. This is from the City of Games. Dan, with Core Quest.
Frank West.
Let's not be name dropping here. You're supposed to say Frank West, president of Gamma, at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, president of Gamma. Yeah.
Dan, with Core Quest, your videos and your podcast, you're obviously a very creative man. You're starting off well. Have you ever created or considered creating any non-board game related content?
Yes, lots of non-board game related content. I did a movie podcast. I'm in the middle of writing a Choose Your Own Adventure book, which is Core Quest related. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult than I ever thought it would be, and I'm regretting ever touching it. It's for the Kickstarter. I won't go into it, but yeah, no, that's interesting. Every one of my male relatives down a certain lineage has written a book, and I want to write a book. But what I want to do is have written a book. The actual writing of the book is slightly less enjoyable. I do art. I do watercolors. I'm not good at any of these things, by the way. I just do them. As I say, punk rock creation. You can do anything. Play the ukulele, write some songs now and again. That will never see the light of day.
Excellent. All right. Well, we should definitely get this back on track and talk about some games.
We were making him feel very comfortable. This is about par for the course.
True. Let's turn up the heat and make you talk about games, Dan. This is what we call 1-in-1.
Ball games are for nerds.
We talk about one game that would be considered new and one that is a bit older. And so, Dan, why don't you just we're going to watch you and see how you handle this question. Give us a 1-in-1.
Okay, so the new one that I've been playing a lot recently is Acropolis, which is won by it's Gigamic. That's not the reason anyway, whatever. And it's a tile laying game. It's a city building game. It's like a cross between Number 9, as in you're putting things down, fitting them together, and building them up, and scoring more as your city gets taller, but also quite King Domino-y as well. So it's about positioning your things and making sure that things are together, or some of them are need to be apart and things like that. It's a really simple family weight tile laying game, which is just a lot of fun. Cora really likes it. I mean, mainly I've been playing games with Cora recently, and Cora really, really enjoys it, and that's enough for me. And I like it as well. It's marvelous. I'm a big fan of letting kids play games that for kids, but it is very nice when the kids start wanting to play games that you're also getting some of that board gaming itch scratched for as well. You know, it's not just the joy of spending time with your children, it's the joy of playing a really good game as well. And Acropolis is the most recent one we've been playing that we both really enjoy.
How about on the older time frame?
On the older time frame, it's another one by Gigamic, which is why so I'm all into the French games at the moment, and it's Corridor, which is a really old game, 1997. It's an abstract game. It's a big wooden board, and you're basically trying to move your pawn from one end to the other, and the other person's trying to move their pawn in the opposite direction. And you can either move your pawn forward or use a little block of wood to create a devious maze for the other player to get through. So throughout the course of the game, you're kind of both building this maze that ultimately, eventually, you're going to have to get through as well. And it's that strategic thing of trying to block them off from moving, but not make it so it will impede your progress. And just a bit of take that, but it's really, and it looks really nice on the table actually. It's nice and quick. It's only like 15 minutes or 10 minutes if you're rubbish like me, and get too involved in the maze making and ignore the other person running away. So it's just really got a really nice abstract little classic game, Corridor.
That's one that I always enjoyed playing with and not playing by the rules. We would just make mazes with the pieces.
Yeah.
And create. We do like dungeon delves with it or something, or make the person solve the maze blindfolded. But as for playing the game, I'm not really sure how to play it.
It's a bit like, did you put your little pet rat in there and make it go round? And
yes, you probably could.
Shock it when it got it wrong and stuff like that. I know you're into that.
Well, yes, that's just your pet shop instincts from when you were small, Dan.
That's how you keep them in line. That's not true. I was joking. That's not true.
So as for me, the brand new game I got to play just recently is Skate Summer. This is a Pandasaurus title about doing cool tricks in the park. I have like a hex grid, and you're going around on your skateboard and tagging locations around the board. But the main mechanism is this push your luck thing, where you've got a bunch of cards that represent tricks, like a 360 ollie and these wacky named tricks that, when you play them, give you some sort of bonus, like resources and stuff like that. But you change your balance based on what side you decide to play the cards. You can play it left or right, and that will move you over a certain number of arrows left or right. And then somebody rolls dice that may cause you to go even further to the left or right. And if you go too far left or right, you fall, you wipe out, and you've busted for that round. After that, you can choose to stop or continue playing cards. And so it's this push your luck thing that if you decide to end your tricks on time, you can play all sorts of resources and do cool stuff. But if you crash and burn, you're going to lose things, which is ultimately where I had a little bit of difficulty, because if you do get that to happen a lot, sort of like busting in Quacks of Quedlinburg a lot, you're going to be sad, let's say. But the flavor is really cool. I like the production, and it does feel like you're doing dangerous tricks. It really illustrates the danger of riding a skateboard.
You should combine it with Dice Hospital like I did that other one. And
yes! So, you wipe out and then you go.
When you wipe, you have to go to the fracture clinic at Dice Hospital. That's what I'd do.
Every patient in a hospital is a skateboard enthusiast.
Yes, and then you get eaten by a pterodactyl. So, and then as for older, and I almost hesitated calling this older because this is only a couple years old. I think this came out in 2020. It's Godspeed.
So we're definitely doing that. Everyone had to pick the same publisher for both games.
I did not realize that was the theme, and I didn't even realize it until saying it right now that's what I did. Godspeed is also a Pandasaurus title, but it's a worker placement set in like an alternate history during the Cold War. You've got a bunch of factions that have colonized this distant planet, and you're you're building stuff and collecting resources and doing all this stuff. But it's a worker placement game where your workers have like suits. So there's a scientist, a blue worker, and there's a yellow worker and a red worker, and you can only use the colored workers to do certain actions. But you also have a round of bidding on resources and a crisis that comes up that may have you having to spend that blue character so that you can't use him later in the round. And so it offers a lot of choices of, do I avoid a small little penalty but take this person out of commission so I can't make my plans happen later in the round, or do I make everybody mad by not dealing with this event or not bidding on as many resources, not winning the auction, but having more choices when it comes to the action round? And that offered some pretty cool choices. There's some weird component issues with size of components, and there's some iconography that was more obtuse than I wanted it to be. They even put, one of my big pet peeves is when they put like art on the back of the rule book instead of an icon description. Mm-hmm. Like they had the room on the back of the rule book. They could have done an icon description and didn't. And so there were some things that just were incomprehensible in decoding the cards. Still an interesting structure of a game. That's Godspeed.
Excellent game. I like it a lot. But it kind of did fall off everyone's radar.
Yeah.
I'm always a big fan of the Kinderspiel winners. I think we can all say we disagree sometimes with the Spiel winners, sometimes with the Kennerspiel, but I'm always excited about the Kinderspiel, the game of the year for kids in Germany. This year it was Magic Mountain. So this game already intrigued me because you get to roll marbles down a hill. I'm in. It's like a 10 out of 10 already for kids. But there's not enough of these games out there. But this one it's almost like a Plinko machine. Eric, I'm surprised you don't own 3 copies of this already.
Wish list, yeah.
So you drop these marbles down, and they will then hit these students and or witches. There's 4 witches and I think like 6 students or something like that. And if it hits somebody, the marble, you pick that person up and move them to the next space on the path that matches the color of the marble that hit them. And then the marble will keep going down. It might hit more people. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to hit the non-witches to move them down the path all the way to the bottom. If you hit the witches and they get to the path first and the witches get down there before the apprentices, then you all lose. It's a cooperative game. It is just dropping marbles down and using logic not logic, but guessing, like if I drop it on the side, it will probably go over here and hit these 2 apprentices. Maybe.
I was going to ask how much skill is there to that, because not that there's a problem with randomness in kids' games, but is there any skill to it, or is it just? Well,
there's skill in. I think I'm going to drop it on this side.
Right,
because you're literally. There's a competitive variant that we played where you just play 4 and 4, and then you're trying to hit yours and not the opponent's, and I thought that worked pretty well. My only complaint about the game is you definitely want to make sure your table's level.
Yes.
Now, this isn't as bad as some other games I played recently, the Thunder Mountain game. And it's not Fireball Island, but it's nice. I liked it a lot.
You should have a tournament on the cruise. That would be good.
As it shakes back and forth.
Yeah. You could time it for when yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
You give me an idea. But anyway, the other thing I've been playing, I don't remember if I talked about me playing chess with my son on this show.
No, I don't think so.
All right, so this game came out called Storytime Chess, which is a way to teach kids chess. And so you put like little characters on, and then you go through scenarios like the king is hungry for pizza. So you put pizza all over the board, and you're like, the king can move one space in any direction. Now get the pizza. So you move the king around, eat all the pizza, and you're like, yes, that's how the king moves. And you keep doing that with all the different pieces. About 4 or 5 lessons into this, my son was like, teach me all the pieces. So we went from lesson 5 to chess.
Yep.
Although he still calls the pawns children, and he calls them maybe by their incorrect names. The thing is, my son has a unique skill set in many ways. Like, speed games are not his thing. If I ever ask him a question, he will think very, very carefully before answering it. Obviously a trait he's got from me. So this throws me off. I'll be like, what's your favorite thing we did today? And he'll sit there and go, I'm like, I don't got time for that. Tell me. So a lot of games he struggles with, but chess, he is loving this. He's 8. I was not expecting this at all because I don't think too much of chess, but he was begging to play it over and over again, asked me if I was playing as hard as I could be, and it's an interesting thing playing back and forth with him because it's a fun experience, but I'm not used to somebody explaining all the moves that they're making, telling me how I could stop such a move, so therefore they'll make another move. I'm like, listen, just keep some of that in your head. You don't need to tell me where I can hit you. And he hasn't got to the point of sacrifice yet. He doesn't think any piece dying is particularly good. But he's not doing badly, and he keeps asking to play. And while chess is not one of my favorite games, why would I pass up that opportunity?
No, exactly. And it's a game that you probably can play with a lot of other kids, whereas you will not know the rules from lots of kids know how to play chess, don't they? Because parents tend to.
That's true. If the other kids at school make fun of him, I'm going to be like, take this in and just show them what's up.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things my eldest loved a ton when he was in elementary school was being on the chess team. And it was like an after school thing, and they went to a couple tournaments, and that was a whole world that I was not prepared for. Are there any opportunities for something like that, Tom,
I would be cautious about, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of tournaments in general, you know that.
Yes.
I feel like they bring out the worst in everybody, including parents.
True. I didn't see any fistfights of parents. It was very quiet, sort of seething as you watched the other kids win trophies. But it was an he enjoyed being a part of that aspect of a team, a game related team. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, Cora goes to a chess club at school, and it's the only opportunity she gets to play board games with all her friends. Because so I think I hate chess, but I'm not very bright and I'm not very good at it. So yeah.
So Dan, I thank you so much for spending a lovely hour.
Is that it? Is that all I get?
We are on our way out. If folks want to hear more of you, if they've gotten a sample from this program and they want to hear more, where can they find out your latest comings and goings?
My latest coming and going mainly at the Sporadically Bored podcast, which I do with a certain Mike DeLisio. Occasionally I let him speak. And that's on all the normal podcast type place. We also got a Cora Quest expansion coming out. So if you go to coraquest.com, you can find details on how to sign up for our newsletter and all that marketing stuff. And the Cora Quest Facebook group is where you can see loads of cool pictures of kids' drawings and a bit more kind of community spirited there than a mailing list. And that's it. That's all I'm doing, I think, at the moment. I'm on the Dice Tower now and again. Doing a kids review still with Cora, so I've got another one I need to edit at some point this week. Send it off. I think that's all I'm doing at the moment. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, Dan, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks
so much for putting up with our alter ego, Mike. And we look forward to seeing what comes in the future. Folks, that's it for today. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. But until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Eric Summerer.
We'll see you soon at the table.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you again in 2 weeks and 1 day for some more sparkling conversation. At the Table is produced by Tom and me with assistance from Roy Canada, Wendy Yee, and Chris Yee. Our theme was composed by Timothy Pinkham. The new campaign version of the Stefan Feld classic provided by Bora Bora Quest. And support for everything at the Dice Tower comes from viewers and listeners like you. Reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter, or to Tom@Dicetower.com or Eric@Dicetower.com. Until we see you again, from all of us at the table, have fun gaming.